If you have two shoes, please sell one and buy a sword. If you have two trousers, please sell one and buy a sword. Because now it is time for revolution. And this revolution is not going to be on streets. This revolution is going to be in the mind. This revolution is not going to be about burning cars. It's about building cars and selling them. Peace and power, freedom and decolonization to all African people. My name is King Kabbalah, member of the African Continental Unity Party. And this is our regular program where we come every week to discuss about issues related to the African liberation and African emancipation. And today, as we talk about time for revolution, we need to understand why, particularly at this time, it is a good time for the African popular revolution that many African thinkers have been talking about. Why at this particular time, and why, if we miss out the current opportunity presented by the time of today to embark in this popular revolution in order to change the situation of African people and in order to redefine the future of Africa, we will not have another opportunity like this one in the future. Why? Because when we look at a time today, what we see is that it is a time of danger. Time is a dangerous time. In fact, from whatever angle you look at the situation of Africa today, the global situation of global citizens, you will see that we are at a time of danger. Just recently, the world scientists, let's put it in that context, those who monitor what is called the doomsday clock, I think they call it in that way, they set it to 90 seconds just recently, which means it shows how close we are to what is called an apocalypse or a catastrophe that can impact the majority of human lives, that the catastrophe that can end human life on earth, something like that. So that doomsday clock was set to 90 seconds just recently. It shows you at the global scale how dangerous the time is for us as a people of the world, and most particularly how it is dangerous time for us as African people. Apart from that nuclear catastrophe or apocalypse that can hit the world at any time due to the current conflict between the superpower in the world. I'm talking precisely about Russia, America, and China. We also look at the hunger situation in the world. You have hundreds of million people who are hungry, and many of them dying every day related to hunger, diseases, stuff like that. Apart from that, you're talking about employment. Most of jobs that human beings used to do, are now being taken by robots. Our forefathers were actually carpenters, were artisans, were farmers, and were able to sustain a family of 9, for example, family of 8, family of 5, and stuff like that. But today, you need maybe 2 degrees, and your wife need another degree, and all of you need to be at work in order to sustain a family of 2, a family of 4. So life is not exactly how it was. We can remarkably see that things have gotten from bad to worse. And we don't know exactly where we are heading to. And most of jobs today are being handled by robots. We have now robots, AI, that are now replacing most of jobs that people used to do. So it tells you that the human civilization, the global human civilization today, really championed by European thoughts, is heading toward a catastrophe. And this is clearly visible. And if the situation at a global scale can be as it is now, we can imagine how worse it can be for African people who are weak and who are less organized. You see, and when we look at the today reality, we see that because most of these countries now are getting access to the nuclear power. We talk about North Korea, who is really making perfection, or actually making perfect its arsenal of nuclear weapon, and eventually Iran will get there. Other countries will get there, but as other countries are getting to that technology of nuclear weapon, the so-called superpowers will have to upgrade to get to another level of destruction. Because what we need to understand is every country has the possibility to grow. Every country has the possibility to develop and to get to whatever level of development it can according to its natural resources. Now, for you to keep the world in the current status quo of superpower versus less powerful country or countries, you will have to build or to establish a system that prevents other countries from developing with the resources which are available for them, such as Iran, such as many African countries, such as Arab countries who have oil and stuff like that, such as Nigeria, so that as America, you can remain as a superpower of the world. So now when people try by all means now to build or to equip themselves with the tools that will make them also powerful countries, what you will do is to upgrade to another level. And possibly the most likely level that this currently so-called superpower will go to is to have that capability of biological destruction or total destruction, whereby they can create various diseases, that are coded according to some people or some types of DNA or some types of biological setup, so that they can kill certain type of people. I mean, these things have been already in existence. But anyway, getting back to the point where we were talking, that if the situation currently at the global scale is already bad and the future looks really scary, we can imagine how for Africa the situation can be terrifying and hopeless. And that is why we say that this is time for revolution. And all these things that I've spoken about, hunger, unemployment, doomsday clock set to 90 seconds, without forgetting natural catastrophes such as global warmings, floods, and all these things that are happening now frequently in the world due to also climate change, that we know very well the source and the consequences at the global scale. I'm saying all of this not to make us afraid. Indeed, these things are terrifying, but to also realize other aspects of things, because danger always work together with opportunity. Every time you see a danger, you just have to look on the flip side of the coin. You will see the opportunity. You see, and most of inventions, most of great ideas that have changed our world today were born at the climax of a particular situation that was maybe dangerous to people, or that was maybe difficult for people to survive through that situation. Where they talk about a car, where they talk about cell phone, where they talk about trains, generally means of transportation, where they talk about cell phones, where they talk about, think about anything, any innovative idea that has changed our world. It was born at the climax of crisis, of a dangerous situation. So it means as much as the situation is dangerous for us, particularly African people today, because what I can say about us as African people is that we are facing not just a dangerous situation, but a situation of extinction. In fact, some scientists have already begun to talk about the sixth phase of extinction, There have been 5 major extinctions that have hit our world since its first day. And these extinctions have obviously wiped out some species on Earth. You may know about dinosaurs and other species. So we are at the phase of 6th extinction, and I believe that the most species that will be affected on this particular extinction might be the African people. As I've explained, that we are at the dangerous time. But what I'm trying to say is that it is also time of opportunity, because, as I said, danger and opportunity are two brothers or brother and sister who always come together. When you see a dangerous situation, when you see a crisis approaching you, when you see a awkward situation, you just have to look on the other side. You will see opportunity that you can exploit to now change or transform a dangerous situation that you are facing to an opportunity that can enhance your life and make your life meaningful. Now, what is the opportunity presented at this time as we're speaking right now? You see, since the 1945, after the end of this so-called the World War II, the world has been mostly under the hegemony of one superpower, which is the United States of America. We can call that a unipolarity, of domination in the world. America has established, some people say, about 700 or 600 military bases or infrastructures all around the world, in every continent. America has put its presence everywhere, in the on the water, on the land, and you talk about in spaces, able to hit any place around the world in less than 1 hour. That's the capability of America. And by having that kind of presence, military presence, it has also established a kind of hegemony which has kept other countries under their subjection or under the condition of less development, of poverty, And when we talk about poverty or poor countries in the world, are mostly impoverished countries by the hegemony of the United States. So this was the reality. And during this time, it was really difficult for you to emerge, as a small country with your resources, to emerge and develop and do certain things, unless you are working for the interests of the United States of America. And that's the reason why many leaders, particularly on the African continent, were killed by the US because they wanted to really work for the benefits of their people. We know CIA has been involved in a lot of operations that have seen lots of leaders being killed in Africa. So, as we're speaking now, we are in that phase of transition from unipolarity of domination to multipolarity of domination, so to say, whereby we see conflicts. Russia has risen, China is, showing his muscles. So we have a situation where now there's a conflict between themselves, where America doesn't want to let go its old position of the world domination to have, or to let another new dominant power to take over. So it's conflicts now. And the war between Russia and Ukraine is particularly the war between America and Russia, for that very simple reason, for the world dominance and world supremacy in every angle of realities you can look at it. And it's mostly against China, because Russia is the ally of China. So weakening Russia is isolating actually China, so that you can now wage war on China as time goes on. So the point is, this conflict already sets an opportunity for us as African people to recoup and eventually establish our own agenda of Pan-Africanism and federal states, United Federal States of Africa, as dreamed by Kwame Nkrumah, as dreamed by Marcus Garvey, by Sheikh Anta Diop and other Pan-Africanists who have inspired our struggle today for the African liberation and African emancipation. Why am I saying this is an opportunity? Because when you look even in Haiti, which is the first black nation to undertake a revolution which ended slavery in Haiti, we can learn that Haitian revolution succeeded because the French people themselves were in conflicts with themselves, and mostly in conflicts also with other powers, other slave powers of that time. You may remember that there was a conflict between Spain, France, and English and Britain, right? And within France there was a conflict because at that time it was a time of French Revolution. So there were those French people who were pro-revolution and those who were against the revolution. So they were fighting among themselves. As they were fighting, so their attention was kind of moved away from the whole situation of plantation, and which gave the opportunity to slaves to organize their strike and eventually overthrew the slavery as a system. So as we're speaking now, these people are fighting among themselves. What we should be doing is to also prepare now how we can now strike our revolution when they have done fighting among themselves. Because what we need to realize, what we actually see today is that most of African leaders are taking sides among these people. But you see, these people can quickly unite themselves than divided, that's seemingly divided they are. Or how can I put it? They can quickly unite themselves, you see, than stay or remaining divided as they seem to be today. Because we don't have to forget, at the Berlin Conference, they were able to unite themselves and to strike a deal which has changed the world reality, whereby we have Africa in the conditions we are today and the Europe in the condition they are today through really the Berlin Conference, which mostly has eventually facilitated many of their projects for Africa. So this is an opportunity. Unfortunately, African leaders are taking sides, trying to side with America, trying to side with, Russia, stuff like that, or trying to be neutral. I don't think that it is time for us to be neutral, or it is time for us to side with anybody. It is time for us to organize ourselves for our revolutionary agenda, our Pan-Africanist revolutionary agenda for liberation and emancipation of Africa. One would say that we have to organize ourselves so that when they are they are done fighting among themselves, we fight all of them and we put them down, in a sense of putting their hegemony over us down immediately. I think this is the mindset that we need to have, and this is actually the revolution that we are talking about. And this is the most important time that we need to begin this revolution, because the danger is that, as I said, very easily Russia, America can unite again, can come to some terms and obviously find peace among themselves, and that peace will be found around the common goals of their common interest, which is to exploit Africa. So many Africans think that today, if Russia, for example, overcome the current conflicts it has engaged in and becomes maybe successful in that endeavor, will show some kind of mercy to Africa and will be the liberator of Africa. No, Africans must liberate themselves, even though there can be some kind of strategic partnership that we can have with Russia, but we are the ones who are supposed to be the engineers or the architects of our own liberation agenda and emancipation agenda, and then decide how we are going to implement it, how we are going to execute it, for the results that we know. Because the success of Africa may not please Russia, as much as it cannot please the it does not please the United States of America, or it does not please France, Germany, England, China, you name it. Because even though we talk about multipolarity, which is important to give opportunity to other small countries also to try to find allies and image and develop themselves, because now there's no one single power which dominates the whole world. Multipolarity always results in regionalizations, whereby a group of countries form a region of influence. Other group of countries form a region of influence, right? And you have kind of poles, different poles emerging. So that gives an opportunity to small countries. But we need to understand that phase of multipolarity is also a kind of temporary phase, because the aim is for everyone to become. The aim among themselves is to become the most dominant power in the world. Like China, right? It doesn't want to have other competitor, right? Next to itself. No, it want to overtake completely the United States of America as a global superpower, so that China can remain on its own now, the next superpower and the next dominant power in the world for I don't know how many centuries according to their projects, right? The same thing as Russia, the same thing as Britain, which want to regain its status and stuff like that. So we don't have to even to rely on multipolarities by thinking that now we have a better chance because the world is now in different is divided in different groups of power and influences, so we have to make ourselves comfortable with it. No, we need to have as agenda of our revolution power. Africa must become the global power of the world, because we were once in the past. So this is the essence of the time at which we are now, because when we miss out at this opportunity presented by this time, we may not have the same opportunity in the future, because the one who takes over the world will also make sure that it stays in power for the next 400 years. And that will be 400 years of power for China, 400 years of power for Russia, and 400 years of slavery and servitude for African people. So you have to think about it. What really is best for us as African people. And this is the reason why we call upon African people every day by saying that this is time for revolution. And if you have two shoes, please sell one and buy a sword, because we cannot do this revolution with the words alone. We cannot do this revolution with the words of mouth, with just speech. No, we need to use, our resources for this revolutionary agenda to be successful. It means we need to pull together our money, right, to build our own multinational corporations owned by the people, not owned by tiny individual capitalists, but owned by the African people, owned by the communities. So you need to look, for example, in your own community where you're living right now, who control the markets, who control the business sector, to whom do you go every morning to buy bread? So, and that's where our revolution must begin, to organize ourselves in our communities and then begin to replace these people, who are aliens, right? But who have the control and the monopoly of our markets, of our business sector and stuff like that. So that when we wake up in the morning, instead of going to our own to buy bread, we going to them. So this is actually the essence of this revolution, because if we don't take care of our markets, if we don't take control of our means of production and distribution of resources, then we are doomed to fail forever, because we'll be always the employees of other people, the servants of other people, and you name it, everything of other people rather than of our own. So this is time for revolution. It means we need to find organizations that we belong to. That's why I said, and these organizations must be built in our communities for economic solutions, for I don't know, political solutions, for health solutions. So we need to go away with this mindset of relying on the government or on the politicians to do what we are supposed to do for ourselves, because the only organization that can work for the interest of the people is that which the people build for themselves. And that is why I want to seize this opportunity to introduce to you the African Continental Unity Party, which is the people's organization, a people's party. This is not a kind of elite party. We are all common African citizens and coming up with ideas and putting these ideas together, putting our resources together, putting our energy together to create a continent-wide political party in order to seize the institutions of policy making and then amend the policies that will be beneficial for the common African people. And this is the essence of this revolution. I mean, in case you don't know, when we talk about revolution simply means the change of values that govern our lives. You see, we have certain values that really govern our lives. At this moment, we're talking about European values, capitalist values. So if we're talking about revolution, we're not talking about getting guns and going killing people on the street. We're talking about coming up with the different values that will govern our lives in a way that we want, in a way that fits our own agenda as African people, right? And these values are embedded within the agenda of the African Continental Unity Party. If you don't know what is the ACUP, what is our ideology, please reach out to one of us to get the ideological handbook to get to know exactly what we are talking in terms of change or systemic change, which is part of our revolutionary agenda. So it is time for revolution. I've explained the importance of this time, and I've explained why now, but not tomorrow or after tomorrow, because we might be running out of chains or out of time by tomorrow. So we are now at the right time and the right place to embark on this revolutionary agenda as African people, in order to make sure we have a future, and a better future, not a future of being always at a service of other people, or slaves, or oppressed by other people, but a future which really responds to our aspiration, right? To be free, to be self-emancipating and self-determined people, and to be profiting or benefiting from all the resources that Africa has, because we have full right to that. So please, if you have 2 shoes, sell one and buy a sword. If you have 2 trousers, sell one and buy a sword, because now it is time for revolution. And this revolution is no longer on the streets. This revolution is not about burning cars, but it is in the mind. Building cars, selling them to make our own money, to make our own economy. Peace and power, freedom and decolonization. We'll see you next time. Thank you.